Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Welcome to I Don't Need an Acting Class with Milton Justice.
Oh, and by the way, Caleb came over. I put him on tape for an audition to play Mercutio. And the audition said, your initial audition is a self-tape, and then if there's a callback, you'll do it in person. And after the self-tape, they offered him the part. So, yes, he got offered Mercutio yesterday. So I thought that was... It doesn't completely surprise me because Americans doing Shakespeare is not pretty. So, so the fact that he had a sense of Shakespeare. But listen, the point of doing Shakespeare, which I consider to be far easier to do than realism, the purpose of doing Shakespeare is you have to have a specific relationship to everything you talk about. I mean, some people are brilliant. Greg wanted to go to a production of Twelfth Night, and I said, I saw Mark Rylance do Twelfth Night. I don't think I need to go see another Twelfth Night in my life. But the issue here is that in so many areas, the specific relationship to what you're talking about is absolutely vital. Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious by the son of yore is very specific that he is talking about the person who is king, and he must have a specific relationship to it. He is not just reporting the chronology of time. Karim and I have been working, as you know, on the same monologue now for 4 years. And we discovered something new at the private. We had a private last week. We discovered something new. And it was really a simple thing. And it's something in the past. And it was a fleeting moment. I mean, it was one of those moments where you see something and you get, the only word I can think of is the Yiddish word klung, which I think is loosely defined as a rush of shit to your heart. But you know those moments when something happens and you have, whoa, and you just feel something? It's just like this black rush. And then you recover. You might also call it a fist in the gut moment, but then you recover. But I mean, it's one of those things. You keep discovering things. But the relationship to it is important. This is really, I'm so glad you're here, Shane. I learned so much working with you yesterday. But going back before that, this was the thing that I got from Shane, working with Shane yesterday. And this is a very, very common problem. And the very common problem is not having a specific sense of a sequence of thoughts. And so because we don't realize that it's a sequence of thoughts. We have the same relationship to everything. And so, in other words, and look, with all of this, whether you're describing the beach or whether you're describing your relationship with the guy that you're with, what Shane was doing, there is a thought. And then there's another thought. And then there's another thought. I think the issue is that we are not specific enough with what is a thought. There are a lot of acting teachers who talk about, insanely, an action on every line. It makes absolutely no sense, since the big thing that we always say is that the play is not about the words. I can, with that kind of thinking, I can imagine changing thoughts in the middle of a sentence, much less the middle of a line. I mean, that's where you have to really sit down and be specific what the thought is. I will resend again to you all the commencement exercises, but Trudy, where do I have the commencement exercise? Oh, yes, I see in the teaching file. Thank you. All right. Let's look, as an example, the first commencement speeches. So the first line is your parents proudly here today, and their parents before them perhaps proudly here today, understood a simple equation for success. Your children would do better than you did. Ditch digger to cop to lawyer to judge. We're now supposed to apologize to you because it seems that's no longer how it works, that you won't inherit the SUV, which was way too big, or the McMansions that was way too big, or the corner office that was way too big. But I suggest that this is a moment to consider what doing better really means. If you're part of the first generation of Americans who generally see race and ethnicity as attributes, not stereotypes, will you not have done better than we did? If you are part of the first generation of Americans with a clear understanding that gay men and lesbians are entitled to be full citizens of this country with all its rights, will you not have done better than we did? If you are part of the first generations who assume women merit full equity instead of grudging acceptance, will you not have done better than we did? Okay, so so you read it and you say, yes, okay, I got a general idea of what this is about. Anybody, tell me just generally what it's about.
Generational improvement.
Yeah. What else? I mean, what about generational improvement?
That generation builds on the next, and that if they were the first generation to have these better qualities as a community, they're already doing better than their predecessors.
Good. Perfect. Yes, exactly. So you read it and you say, all right, I have a general idea what this is. I have a general impression what this is. But now let's go back, because the one thing that I want to do, I want to avoid listing. I want to avoid, basically, I want to avoid being boring. So this is where, based on the text, I look at it and so I've divided it into paragraphs because then I'm saying, first, she talks about what the expectations were. Then she talks about what happened. And then she talks about what that means. Okay, So so more specifically, I have in mind there's a sequence of thoughts, and I think about it. First of all, she talks about and I go slowly enough to think what that means. She talks about what the expectations of college were. And then she talks about the reality of what happened because of the time that we live in. And then she talks about what that really means. All right. So you can tell by the way I start to talk about the thoughts, chunk by chunk, if you will, as opposed to beat by beat, it begins to be a sequence of thoughts. Now, if I were to improvise it, having read it once, although it's not fair, because I've known this particular one, but if I were to read it a couple of times, knowing what was going on, I could pretty well improvise it. I could improvise it very simply, knowing that the first chunk is about who these people are and what they expected. So I say, yes, okay. I'm looking at all these people that are here that were supportive, that were parents, and maybe even some grandparents, maybe even went to the school. But you're looking at these graduates and you're thinking to yourself, I know what I was expecting when you went to college. I know what was happening when you went to college. I expected you to do better than me. I expected for you to accomplish more. And then I go to the second thought. And in the second thought, I say, so that really didn't happen. You know, all of a sudden, there's a whole world where things didn't happen the way we thought they were going to happen. Going to college didn't mean that you made more money. Going to college didn't mean that you were more successful. Going to college did not mean this. And I guess the question is, should we apologize to you? And then we go to the third chunk where she says, but let me suggest something. Let me suggest that what you got was more. That not having the big office, not having the big car, not having the big house is not as important as the fact that you now have a sense of equality. You now think gay people can marry. You now think women can. Okay, but you can see where I'm going. So in other words, and I pointed out because it's important when you look at text, you figure out what it's about and what's going on. And the way that I talk it out is sometimes I hit the words, sometimes I don't hit the words. I go all over the place because what I'm trying to do is connect, and I connect my way. And that's what's important. How did the audition go, by the way?
The part that we worked on went well. Thank God I called you, because otherwise I would have done a performance. But I didn't spend enough time on the scene, and it could have been better.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
But I mean that's it. I mean, Shane's problem was a problem that actors have. The inability to look at a text and figure out what the thoughts are. And with Shane, it was she moved so fast to the words that she just skipped over the stage called "What am I talking about?" And because she went to the words so fast, and because and by the way, Maddie Orr, who's at the Actors Studio in New York, taking class, and they said the first thing we want you to do is to get off book. And the teacher said, you can't do creative work unless you're off book. And I thought, in what universe does anybody think that's true? I mean, it's not just me that said it. Stanislavski said it. I mean, and what Stanislavski said is really important here, because what he said was, as soon as you go to the words, all your creative impulses die. And you can see how the way I talked out is that I'm flying around. I'm going over, under, around, and through. I'm being creative. I'm finding things because I don't care about the words. And that's what's important. It's what I'm talking about. It's what's going on. It's my connection to what I'm talking about. And the second I go to the words, I am going to go to a performance. And the second I go to a performance, if it's too early, then what I'm going to go to a performance that's a cliche. Which is exactly what Shane did. But I worked with her for 5 minutes and she dropped it. I mean, that's how fast, that's how good she's gotten it. That's how fast she corrected it. You know, she just corrected it. I said, you know, all right, let's go back. What are you talking about? What are you saying? And she pulled it back, and the whole bad performance, which was a bad comedy performance. Comedy's a nightmare.
That's what freaked me out, is doing a comedy thing. And so I could see where I just went right to
Yes. And she was trying to be Lucille Ball, I think. But that...
You know what else I think I had skipped is who I was talking to. I didn't have a clear idea.
Good, yes.
Yesterday, you said we're getting an idea of who he is by what was said. And literally on the car ride on the way over, I like had him in the car with me, and he was driving me fucking nuts, complaining about everything. And then we just came from breakfast and he complaining about everything. And I like kind of developed him more so that there was more, I knew more of who I was talking to, which was another step I had kind of forgotten before.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, well, I have a list of that, and it's funny you should mention it because I put that down as part of today's discussion. But okay, so that's the thing. Look, just go slowly. Go slowly and clearly. First, I talk about this, then I talk about this, then I talk about this. Yeah, now let me get that straight again. First, I talk about this. Think about it. Then I talk about this. Got it. Then I talk about this. Now let me just do it with the knowledge that I have. I've read through it twice, maybe 3 times, enough. I read through it like an actor reads through it. Now I start talking about it again. And I start talking out, knowing where I'm going. And knowing what each thought is. And also not pushing for a performance. The performance will or will not come. But the fact of the matter is, if to me, one of the worst, Trudy will have to see if she can find it. I have a bunch of tapes of actors like Mel Gibson doing the Braveheart. We will go to the, and then there's another one, Liam doing one, and then there's another one. I mean, there's like this whole collection of people going to a performance. This is how you do the Crispin Day speech. Oddly enough, although they had an 80-piece symphony orchestra behind him, but oddly enough, Kenneth Branagh doing the "You England Do," the Crispin Day speech, with an 80-piece orchestra was not pushed. He actually trusted the Shakespeare, even though not enough to do it without an orchestra. Oddly enough, the only person I've ever heard give one of those speeches is when Helen Mirren was playing Queen Elizabeth I, and she was giving a speech to the English about to, go invade France or something. I mean, it was clear, it was thorough. I mean, it was like she knew what she was talking about and she didn't have to yell.
It's funny, I always remember that speech as well, because even just the way she said his name and armor, he said, you just knew how she felt about him just from the way she said his name.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's very clear. Now, then the next thing, I'm so glad I worked with you yesterday, Shane. I would have had nothing to teach today. Here is where we separate the actors from the amateurs. This is a commencement This is a commencement speech. It is different than others. There is almost a built-in action, which is to inspire, to lift you up. I mean, all those words, or just to rally the troops. I mean, there are all sorts of them. But here's where you get specific, and it doesn't sound like a grocery list and doesn't sound like you're droning on. We know we're talking to the students, and Shane's point, absolutely. I must live off my partner. They're two huge things that are helpful, that I look at sweeping generalizations. One is your partner will give you the action, and the other one was the place will give you the action. But the partner is vital in terms of who will give you the action.
The Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist, whether you're running, swimming, or sleeping. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. The Apple Watch Series 10. Available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generations, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 40% off select styles, plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
When Karim and I, about 4 years ago, when we started talking about who are you talking to, and even though the monologue is to a reporter, it's a reporter from the New York Times, and so he realized that if I'm talking to a reporter from the New York Times, I am talking to the American people. That's my partner. In other words, knowing who my partner is and my relationship to my partner gives me a sense of how to play it, because I am living off of them. And sometimes I have to talk it out and sometimes I don't. I mean, there are no rules here. But what she's saying is your parents proudly here today, and their parents before them perhaps proudly here today. So she is speaking to graduating students, and this is the sort of thing where I have to build a relationship to them. What do I think about them? And if I build a relationship to them that says, I think these are people who are the future, and I have a relationship to what that means. And again, look, it's very complicated. Because to some people, it won't mean a damn thing, the future. To someone like me, it does. So me making that choice is my choice because I'm playing a commencement speaker who is talking to the future of civilization, quite honestly. And so that gives me something. It may not give everybody something. Then you have to talk it out. Yes, Amanda.
I was just thinking, is she also not speaking to those parents and grandparents saying this was your focus and priority, which was more like a financial, material kind of success? And so maybe you aren't going to see what these graduates are doing in the world. I mean, it's kind of both.
Yes, but who I'm talking to and what my attitude is towards what I'm saying is different. That's different. I mean, yes, those people are there. I'm not really talking to them. I may be damning them, but I'm not talking to them. Do you see what I mean? In other words, my partner, I am living off my partner at the expense. I mean, Jesus, Amanda, unfortunately, you haven't gone with me to these foreign countries where I teach and I subtly undermine every other teacher in existence. But I know you know that's exactly what I do. I act like what I'm doing is being very specific about teaching acting, but at the same time, I'm saying who you've been listening to is insane. It's that big.
I Don't Need an Acting Class is created and hosted by Milton Justice, produced by me, Walker Vreeland, and music is by Shagoi. I Don't Need an Acting Class is brought to you by weaudition.com, where you can sign up to be a virtual reader for auditions. You can also find a reader for a rehearsal or self-tape. It is the #1 resource for that purpose. And if you use the code Acting Class, you get 25% off, which makes it something like $10 a month. So check that out, weaudition.com. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you back here next time.